I promised in the last video that I'm going to be speaking conversely of how the Israeli citizenry will be pivotal to how this war eventually goes. The war that is most likely going to start Friday, come Saturday. You see, the Israelis are a very warsome population. They're a very fearsome population. They love their wars. They love to take more land. Remember the Greater Israel concept. The Greater Israel concept essentially means Israel must keep expanding at the expense of its neighbors. If you look at the map currently, Israel is a very tiny country, a sliver of a country. It even started very tiny. They took a small beachhead of land from the Palestinians and they started expanding and expanding and expanding since then. Now they want to take a piece of Lebanon, they want to take a piece of Gaza, you know, they also intend to take a piece of Egypt, even as far as a piece of Syria, a piece of Jordan, even a piece of Saudi Arabia. And currently, what they are actually doing is to try to swallow the entirety of Iran, not even a piece of it. Do you understand? So the Israelis love their wars. They love to take land. They want to do greater Israel. And every population that stands in their way, they are absolutely ready to not just join the army, to actually make it happen, but to actually also support their leaders to do whatever, extermination, mass murder that is necessary to take out people and take the land. But there's a caveat. Israelis only continue to love their wars if and when they are winning. The moment they start losing, it's a big problem. They essentially revolt against their leaders. I don't understand how a population can so much love to do to others what they cannot tolerate in the least to be done to them. This is funny incident that happened. The Iranians started using cluster bombs, against the Israeli population. And the Israelis started invoking the Geneva Convention. They started going to the United States, as into the United Nations Human Rights Commission. We started seeing them saying they want to go to the International, Court of Justice. They want to go to the, to the World Court in The Hague to complain that Iran is using banned cluster bombs. But this is you that cluster bombs are your norm. That phosphorus, white phosphorus that essentially burns the skin and disfigures and dismantles humans is your norm. You that depleted uranium round is your norm. That essentially goes on, to pollute the human genome and make women start having children that have cancer. This is same you that you use very toxic herbicides to burn people's farmlands, and those farmlands cannot grow plants for the next 10, 20 years. And you are the same persons, one of those things that is now done to you, and you are crying. You are asking the whole world, you are asking them to come and save you from what you have done manifolds of to other people. It's not fathomable. It's not logical. It's not human. Israelis are so unusual that, do you know that in Israel, the Arab areas, the areas where the Palestinians and the Arab Israelis live, there are no bunkers or shelters there. If Iranian missiles happen to land in such places, then the people who live in those areas are sure to die because there are no places they can hide themselves and protect themselves at. But in the parts of Israel where Israelis, where Jews actually live, there are plenty of bunkers there, there are plenty of shelters there, there are plenty of hiding places there. So essentially, Israeli, Jewish Israelis should go on and live, while Arab Israelis should go on and die. That is the kind of population we're talking about. In fact, it is not just about that alone. You see, immigrants, folks who have gone there to work, Filipinos, Ethiopians, Indians, and sorts. When Iranian missiles come, and those migrants who have essentially come to work for them, to work in their countries as migrants, workers, also trying to run into the shelters, there are Israelis that stay at the door of the shelters and push them back. The shelters are not for you. Your own lot is to die from the Iranian missiles that are coming. The shelters are only for Jewish Israelis, not for immigrants and not for Arab Israelis. Unfortunately, too, we have read of cases where these Israelis actually go on to rape fellow, sexual assault, to do sexual assault on female Israelis, fellow female Israelis, under the guise of being in the shelters. That is the kind of abysmal population. That is the kind of, I don't know, quite odd behavior in the middle of war. You know, we have read of cases from Israeli media where we actually see Israelis who go on to use the opportunity of missile sirens and all the hula baloo, the fog of war, to actually go into, into a supermarket to steal, to actually go into people's homes, people who have evacuated their homes, in the course of the war. They go into their homes and steal their property. In fact, there is the case, that Channel 13, a popular Israeli media, actually reported, where people go into Israeli supermarkets. They pick what they want to pick, and they wait for the next missile siren to sound so that everybody will start running helter skelter. And immediately the missile siren sounds, they run out of the supermarket in the guise of running away, from the supermarkets into the bunkers or shelters to ensure they don't pay for what they bought. That is the kind of population we're talking about. Currently in northern Israel, the mayor of one of the cities in northern Israel came on TV and he was complaining bitterly. He was almost crying that the Hezbollah fighters have made life hell for them, that they're trying to escape from there, they're trying to evacuate from there to central Israel, and government is not supporting them. But that is exactly what the Israeli leadership and military has done to southern Lebanon. They have actually succeeded in evacuating and in pushing out a population that exceeds 1 million. So if just 10,000 of you just evacuated, you should spare us the sub stories for crying out loud. You should take it as men, because you have done by far more to other people. We should not see tears on your eyes. That is the kind of population we are talking about. Now, unfortunately, the national psyche has now become dampened in Israel. Despite the much lower level of casualties in terms of deaths compared to the Iranians, the Israelis are by far more tired, are by far more disillusioned, and are by far more disinterested, disinterested in continuing with this war compared to the Iranians. While the Iranians are gingered, while they are feeling really motivated, and while they are motivating their leaders and military to actually continue to fight the enemy, the Israelis are doing the Israelis are doing the opposite. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Netanyahu is not helping matters. Do you know what he did recently? Just today. That would be, as in only recently. Do you know what he did? He announced to the folks in northern Israel that are the immediate victims of a Hezbollah attacks, that they may, as much as possible, the leader should ensure that they don't evacuate from there. Because the whole idea behind the war with the Hezbollah is to get Hezbollah to evacuate from southern Lebanon, which abuts northern Israel. So the opposite of what the Netanyahu intends is what is happening. Northern Israel is also now getting evacuated of its citizens, because of military pressure from Hezbollah. He did not want that. He did what? He essentially encouraged the leaders to keep the people there under fire from Hezbollah. To make matters worse, guess what he did? He announced via Zoom from his bunker that he should have visited northern Israel, but he cannot visit now because of military pressure from Hezbollah, so that he does not become the victim of a missile or drone attack in northern Israel. Again, very warped idea. You ask the citizens to remain in the line of fire, and you are saying you cannot come and visit them because you do not want to get in the line of fire. Absolutely odd. And that is what explains the vast difference between the citizen level, behavior of Iranians and Israelis vis-a-vis this war currently. How things are more likely to play out if and when Trump decides either way to either do a unilateral ceasefire on Friday evening come Saturday morning, or decide to proceed with war for the Strait of Hormuz. I hope you enjoyed this analysis today. Again, don't forget to like, to share, to comment, to podcast, to subscribe and ask your questions, and I will gladly answer you. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.